You have just entered the bear crawling nation and my modern world. This is our modern Mon, and welcome to the other side of live.
Welcome to the other side of live with your host R. Mordant Mon. That's me, and my producer
Big
Charles.
C. Hey,
Big
Charles,
C.
whatever. I forget. You know,
You told me to call you Charles, so I'm going to start calling you Charles now. Charles from the Bear Crawling Nation.
Right.
We are a show produced by the Bear Crawling Nation. Those of you who are looking at the screens here, we have a picture-in-picture, and my good friend Allison Williams is here.
Hi there.
Has joined us. Tonight we are talking about branding your passion. So, of course, leading into that, we're going to have to talk about you should actually have a passion, dreams that you're chasing and catching. But
How can you figure out which of the dreams you're having is the one that really deserves your full attention?
See, she's taking
That's
over
good.
the show. This is basically, it's going to become her show.
This is the audition for her to do her own show. I think.
Well, that's right. We could have the Allison Williams show.
You never know. I mean, I'd love to do a podcast. I think that'd be fun.
The
And
way,
I think
the way
I'm
you told that cop story earlier was that podcast right there.
That is.
Well, I'm definitely sitting in the room with the guys who know podcasts.
Well, yeah. But we know people.
So,
What are you laughing at me for?
So, Charles, Big C, has podcasting always been your passion? Like, how did you get into this?
Talking has been my passion, honestly. That's a nice role. No, I always
That
wanted
was
to
a
tell
segue.
a story. I always felt like I had a story to tell, and I was a musician for a long time. Lead singer, wrote music, and you do entertainment for a living, so you know your music is not the easiest thing to make a living at.
Heck no.
What kind of music did you do?
Metal, actually, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
With your
Wow. So you have to imagine for a moment, because I'm imagining it. The picture in my head is Charles, known then as Big C,
Yeah.
with much longer hair. And he's standing at the front of the stage, axe in hand, whipping his hair around, spraying the nubile young things in the mosh pit with the sweat of his brow.
Never
It's a
got to
beautiful
the
picture.
nubile young things, but the rest of it, yeah.
Or all the dudes that really like heavy metal?
Yeah, there's that. So, yeah, I did it because I had a story to tell. And so when I discovered podcasting, it just fell in naturally because I just talk. I talk constantly. I have all my guys that are you going to be at the festival Saturday?
I'm coming out for a little bit, yeah.
So hopefully you'll get to meet Hugh, who did his show tonight, and some others. They'll tell you, like, him talk? No. I talk a lot. And I realized, well, you might as well. I've always shined in front of people. Everywhere I've always worked, I've become a legend, because everybody I work with is normal, and I'm not.
Yeah.
And
you own
it
it.
just felt
You
like
own
it, yeah.
it. Like you're not the weird, creepy guy in the corner that nobody wants to talk to. Your version of normal is
Yeah.
out there in the open, and you're cool with it, and you own it, and you're not uncomfortable with it.
You
so
know
it's
you're the
comfortable
big guy
for
in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm loud. I don't know if I've been
Yeah.
overly loud with you tonight, but that's my normal volume.
You've
is
been delightfully
loud.
gentle.
Oh, thank you.
But you're comfortable with it, and when you're comfortable
Yeah.
with it, other people can be comfortable with it
Well,
too.
my mom's always told me, be the gentle giant and calm it down. And as I get more excited, usually when he and I get rolling ideas, is we're shouting at each other. We're so excited. And
Yeah.
I
But we're
don't
okay
know.
with that.
Yeah.
Because,
always-
it's
yeah.
more about being amped. I've had people who are like, yo, you're so intense, or stop yelling at me. I'm like, look, I'm just excited. That's all. Enjoy the ride.
In the chat room, Rock Girl says I'm the weird, creepy guy that everyone wants to talk to.
I want to talk to that weird guy over there because he's just exuding charisma.
Yeah, but I mean that's Santa's brand. He's the big weird guy in the corner of the room that everybody
The
wants to
funny
talk
suit.
to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So you know what? Later in life, that is going to be what you're doing. You're going to be a Santa.
Oh, you would be good at
I don't
it.
know.
You're going to be a mall
You would be
Santa.
I don't
really
like
good at
lying
it.
to kids.
And that, yeah, remind
No
me later.
kids.
We got to talk about Macy's.
All right, she's making a note about Macy's.
Yeah, we got to talk about Macy's and the Macy's Santa program. There are people who have branded their passion. They own their brand. They've defined it incredibly clearly. Yeah, we'll talk about that. I have a friend who is close personal friends with many of the people involved in Santa Land at Macy's.
How do we get to Santa in Macy's?
Because she called me old and fat.
You wound me. You fill my heart with tiny
wouldn't call you
daggers.
Like you says, I'm not old.
And I wouldn't call you fat,
No,
just big boned.
You wouldn't put me up on the trapeze with your girls? Is that what we're saying?
Oh, come on. We totally have spandex in your size. It says there right on the tag, husky.
That is one vlog that I would film.
Right, no kidding.
There's Charles.
So, but yeah, I always realized I was the loudest person in the room and the biggest. I'm 6'6", 6'7", 350 pounds. And at some point, I decided to screw this being gentle, quiet, mousy guy, because he still noticed me. That I was like, now I'll own it. And so every office I've ever worked in, it's been, I will say the thing that pops into my mind that I know is not overly offensive. It won't get me fired, but nobody else would say. And that plays great into my brand with, and you know, you talk about how to find the dream that you found. When I started, this is not my first podcast. This is Bear Calling Nation Live is my third one. The first two failed. And this one I went, what do I talk about? And I found myself just talking about anything to everybody. And that's what I focused on. It's like, well, what do I talk about all the time? And it, you know, we joke about on the show, it's all about me. I talk about me and my life and how I view everything, and then how to bring people together. And that's what we do. Because I found if like you, let me think. Well, like religious people and non-religious people will talk about something you can hear. They have the same idea, but they're fighting with each other because of ideas. I can see both sides, and I can talk that side out.
Right.
And nobody else was doing that in podcasting when I decided to do it.
Did you start off with podcasting, or was there something else that you stepped into first?
I actually started doing segments for another podcast. Just two guys, twoguysOnebrain.com, if anybody cares. And they were just two guys talking, and they caught my interest, and they were funny. And I wrote them an email, and they read it on their show. So I did more, and they read that. So I started recording things, and I became a personality on their show. That's where Big C actually came from.
And you know, you say something there, which is you wrote it down. You took something that somebody might have as, oh, I have this cool idea. I think these guys are funny. And you were able to put it into writing to make it concrete, to make it real. And then you executed by sending your concrete product off to people who could appreciate it and use it. And the nice thing about you being able to put your dream into a concrete shape is that if those people had said no thanks, you would still have that product and you could send it to somebody else.
I've never thought of it that way. That's very cool.
Well, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
That you did that.
Talking about...
Without even knowing it.
I know. Well, you know, honestly, that's not surprising. I've done a lot of things with the Bear Calling Nation as a brand totally by accident. Just, I think I have this idea and I kind of do it. And then everybody else goes, oh, my God. I'm like, I didn't think it was that great, but I did it. And that's another thing. I've acted on probably every idea that I've had, and about half of them work, which is surprisingly more than I thought would work.
Which is another really good technique, because you're willing to take not exactly a scattershot approach, because that kind of implies carelessness, but you're willing to pursue a lot of dead ends until you find the one that opens a door. And I think that's another thing that's a really successful characteristic of people who are able to pursue their dreams and take their passion and turn it into something real. They're willing to take 100 no's to get to yes. Ricky, what's the chicken soup for the soul?
Oh, yeah, the chicken soup for the soul guys. They went to 144 different publishers. Every one of them said no, 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 no. It was 145th that said yes.
Yeah.
So imagine that you're up to number 25, or you're up to number 30 or 50 or 75. By that point, most people would say, oh, okay, let's do something
I'm discouraged.
else.
I'm going to quit. This is never going to work.
Colonel
Nobody
Sanders,
wants me.
Well over, I think, 1,100 no's for his chicken recipe.
Yeah.
So at what point do you go, no, I can keep doing this? You know, it's almost like the universe saying, are you worthy of this?
Yeah, you've got to be willing to say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people thinking, oh, this will drop in my lap if it's the right thing. No, not necessarily. You have to push your way into that and be in position to catch that thing that will drop into your lap. So you have to be ready for it.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying as you're typing away doing your job.
So you sent these guys some emails.
Yeah.
And they read them on the air because you were awesome.
This guy's awesome, and he's big, so we're scared.
Well, and because previous to his being awesome in written form, he had repeatedly practiced being awesome casually for his coworkers and friends.
Right.
So this was not something that he just sat down and said, I'm going to write a funny email. He had spent a lot of his life being the funny guy and practicing being funny and being funny around his friends, probably talking back to the TV screen, probably yelling at other drivers in traffic. You know, this practice, I'm going to be funny, I'm going to be funny, I'm going to be funny. Well, you're not born funny. I mean, some people are born funnier than others, but if you really want to be good at it, I mean, Ricky, you're a mordant. You're a comedian some
Funny
of the time.
came as a defense mechanism. Actually, I
Yeah.
watched other people in school and in church, and they were funny, and people liked them. And I was kind of the nerdy dweeby guy, so I was like, if I do that, it was a calculation.
Uh-huh.
If I do that, people will like me more. And yes, it worked.
How'd you get funnier?
Practice,
Yeah.
keep throwing stuff out. I fell into a group of guys who were really nerdy and geeky, but we would do a lot of puns, and we appreciated humor. Listening to some of the greats, listening to Steve Martin when his albums first started coming out.
And that's awesome because there's those elements of competition where you're in a group with your friends and you're each trying to outdo the other, and it spurs you to greater heights. And the camaraderie
Yeah.
where when your friends laugh at you, it brings you all together and you've got that thing going on together.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's how people relate to each other.
Yeah. I hear you're writing a chapter about that.
I am. That involves competition and camaraderie
Yeah.
today. So actually, Big C, you brought me into the whole social media thing, and you introduced me to Gary Vaynerchuk. Not actually introduced me to him, but introduced me to a lot of what
The
he was
work
saying
of Gary
about,
Vaynerchuk.
about chasing
Yeah.
and catching your dreams and bringing them, building your brand online. So, you already had a passion for something. It just gave me an outlet for that. It gave me a relatively inexpensive outlet for that. So that's why we're talking to you today about everything that you do. Now, Allison, you're brought into this because you've taken your career, many-faceted career, into different levels. I mean, you've done some social media stuff, but you've done mostly marketing stuff. You've put on shows. You've said hello to small children as they wander in the room.
Yay, small children.
Go say hi to Go say hi to Daddy.
Good night, baby. Oh. All right, be careful. Go
And,
around the chair.
Crosby here is a fabulous example of connection, because the kind of connection that she'll have will be social connections. And so as she grows older,
Right.
and if she wants to do anything that involves social media, that involves radio, that involves podcasting, that involves comedians, she's going to have the connections to do it. And I think that's something really important for me. Is I'm a baby at social media. I mean, my company has a Facebook page. My two different companies have two different Facebook pages.
They have fan pages, right?
Yeah. No, actually, we're beings. We're created as friends, because I like how we interact with our followers as friends rather than as pages. But mostly, I do the social without the media. For me, a lot of it's about personal connection, about meeting people in person. And then social media is, for me, the way I cement and continue those connections rather than the way I make those connections. There are, Aerial Angels, I think, has, 3,000 or 4,000 friends at this point. And a lot of times now we're getting friending from people who we don't know and have never met us, just through mutual friends.
Right.
But a lot of the people who I have the best connections with, they're people who I met in person.
Right, and those
Yeah.
are a lot of those times when you're using those as connections in work. What I found that I learned from an old mentor of mine way back in the Bay Area Renaissance Festival days, Scott Andre. He was like, when you're going in and you're talking to these people who are hiring you, make your interaction with them fun for them.
Yes.
Not just on stage, not just when you're out amongst, doing your job, but also when you're in the office. So that way they're like, I like that guy and he's talented. I want
Yeah.
to give him money because I want to work with him.
Yep, because and I started out as an actor and director in traditional theater before I was a street performer and an entertainer, before I began the Aerial Angels empire, but a lot of it is people hire people they want to work with. I mean, I still guest direct at colleges, and I will pick a student who looks like they're going to be more fun to be in rehearsal with every night for 40 hours a week. I will pick that over a person who is talented but might be difficult anytime.
Right.
And so some of the challenge becomes, how can we, when we're making our connections, when we're cementing our connections, how can we be those people who are fun to be with and enjoyable to be around? And I think one of the answers is generosity. And I think that that's something that almost everybody can do in even a small way. The flip side, the negative side of it, is sucking up. And so you got to be careful.
Go back
to
to
that.
don't go
Yeah.
lose sight of. Tell me what you mean by generosity.
Well, the positive part of generosity is actively looking for ways you can help other people and make connections for other people, and doing it without thinking about what you're going to get in return, which is difficult and which takes practice. And when I first started, I was very jealous about gigs. I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody else my contacts. I'm not going to give up any kind of details about the money I make. I'm not going to share any information about how to do business. I'm not going to do that, because anybody who else gets a gig gig. They're taking it away from me. Now, 20 years later, I love sharing contacts. I send that kind of stuff out all the time. Hey, so-and-so, you should go work for so-and-so. They'd love your act. They'd love your show. I sell rigs to other aerialists. I had somebody approach me through my website pretending to ask me for a quote. And when I answered with my standard, tell me more about your event, they fessed up and they said, oh, I'm sorry. I was hoping you would just have a cut and paste about your rates. I have to confess, I'm actually another aerialist and I'm trying to figure out how much to charge for this event. Well, I wrote them a 6-paragraph email that started out, you're lucky you found me in a good mood, and ended with, if you'd like to have more information, I do consulting work at $75 for half an hour, $120 an hour, but in between, I gave them information about contracting, about what kind of price range they should be working in, about where to get insurance, because in the end, it benefits me in 2 ways. Number one, it benefits me immediately, because if they know what to charge, clients aren't getting the idea that entertainment is cheap and they can have it for nothing.
Right.
And that benefits me in the long run. The second thing is, hopefully, this person will get somewhere. They'll make something of themselves,
Exactly.
and they'll remember me as the person who helped them.
You succeed, I succeed.
Exactly.
I don't understand the whole competition thing in the world. And podcasting actually, because a lot of people who did podcasting were there two types of people. People like me who came from nothing, and then the radio people. And the radio people came from that competition of we have to capture. And every time I've talked to somebody else about podcasting, they shut down. Like, I'll tell you everything I know about it.
Yeah.
I will help you get out there. And if you fit, and once I start building my nation, if you fit with what I do and how I see the world, you can come in. I'll do even more for you.
Yeah.
For free.
You're building allies instead of dodging your competitors.
Right.
And I think, too, you make a really good point as well, that you might as well share your knowledge because you know what? 90% of the people you talk to are never going to get to the execution stage.
Right.
And
most people out there, they'll discover it's not their passion or they won't want to put in the work.
I mean, you can try to do exactly what I do, but you're not going to be good at it like I am. Because of the road we talked about. I've been doing my shtick, if you will, since I was 13 years old. I mean, I figured out asshole was funny, so I did the asshole. And sometimes it wasn't funny, but the other thing was...
We're going to bleep that out for the home version of the podcast.
I also figued out that honesty is something that nobody puts out there. It's always a character. Or it's hidden. And especially when podcasting was new a few years ago, nobody knew what kind of stalker fans you might get. So they weren't talking about their jobs. They weren't giving their last names. They weren't, and I was just opening it up, said, this is who I am. This is the failures I've done in my marriage. This is... I mean, I had a point in my relationship with my parents where I just tore my life up and I flipped the microphone on. And that changed everything for me because people don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's why, okay, you could do me. You could be the asshole. You could do everything I do, but you won't be me.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can tell you, I can show you, I can give you all the gear, and you still won't be me. So I don't understand the competition aspect of it. Like you'll sell your rigs because they can have the exact same rig you have, and they're not.
And they're not going to do the same show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people have an attitude of scarcity, that there's not enough money to go around. And if you have that attitude, that's going to be what's true for you. But if you have an attitude of, look, there's plenty of money for all of us.
There's just going to
make
love.
We're just going to make the
gigs.
playing field a lot better and a lot more fun for all of us, and let's help each other out.
Yep.
And you have that attitude of, look, most people can't do what I do as well as I do, certainly not the way I do it, and if you can, good on you, remember me, bring me along, and we'll enjoy this ride
Huddle together with your friends so that you all get pulled on together.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, don't be the crabs in the bucket pulling down the one who's trying to escape.
Only I thought about that story.
But it's true because, I mean, when I think about it, so Mordaunt, you've known Big C for a while.
Yeah,
And you guys are jointly working on a project together and succeeding. You and I have known each other for... I guess we've known each other to talk to for 20 years, and I knew you for about 4 years before that without you knowing me, because you were a bigger dog in our pond, Now
kind of a big deal in my own mind.
Oh, I had such a crush. Such a crush. It's all gone now, but it was great while it lasted.
Thanks. That's great.
But we're bringing each other along. We're now at a stage where we're able to build on these connections, the kind of connections that your daughter will have 20 years from now when she's ready to launch herself out into the world. These connections that you get by being generous to each other, by not wanting something from other people, from sharing camaraderie and competition until you feel like a team, even when you're operating on your own stuff. If I get a gig and there's a part in it that's right for Mordaunt, I'm going to pull him along. If I see an idea that's right for him, I'm going to pass it along because I know that he'll do the same for me, and I'm not keeping score about who does how much.
Right. Now, there's a book out. You know I like to mention my books. There's a book out, and I can't remember the author's name, so Rock Girl, if you can find it, that'd be great. I believe it's called Never Eat Alone Again, and he talks about the importance of not networking so much as almost what we're talking about, paying it forward. You know, helping each other out, making that connection. And it's more, instead of networking, it's more of connecting with people. So it's called...
Keep on.
I'm sorry, I was just looking at what you're doing. So it's called Never Eat Alone Again, and it's a good read as far as doing the very thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, and I would say too that it can also be really valuable to reach out and make those connections, even with people you perceive to be several levels above you.
Right.
So I'm going to tell a quick little anecdote here. We have a mutual friend, Christopher Buellman, who many of you listeners will know because he also plays Christoph the Insulter at Renaissance festivals around the country.
Very good at what he does.
Very good. Now, Chris has his first book coming out in September. The book release party is actually September 6th in New York City.
Do you know the name of the book?
The book is called Those Across the River. And if you Google it, you will see one of the most beautiful covers that I have ever seen. And it's a gorgeous cover. It's a beautiful cover. Now, Chris didn't design the cover, but the cover is strikingly similar to a cover that Chris designed for my high school literary magazine. Now, Chris actually graduated from the high school I did, but before I got there. So I was a sophomore or junior. He was already out of high school by 2, maybe 3 years. And I had seen Chris at the Renaissance Festival, and I admired him, thought he was awesome, and I really wanted to meet him. But I didn't know how to do that. So I'm rooting through, as the newly elected assistant editor of the literary magazine, I'm rooting through the old files, and I come across this beautiful piece of art. It's these like black trees against a blue background. Just gorgeous. I still have it.
Right.
And I noticed that the name on the back is Christopher Buellman. And I go and I leaf through some old issues of the literary magazine, and they've got staff photos in the back, and there's Chris. So I get myself on the phone, because there's only so many Buellmans in St. Petersburg. It only takes me like 3 Buellmans to get to him. I'm like, hi, I'm Allison Williams, and I'm the new editor of the Soundings Literary Magazine at Northeast High. I saw that you were on the editorial staff for a number of years, and I wonder if I could take you to lunch and pick your brain about how to do a better job at the literary magazine. Now, you know, Chris is understandably reasonably flattered by this. Yeah. And in fact, I didn't tell him until about 4 weeks ago that I engineered this whole thing because I wanted to meet him. You know, I did learn about being a better literary magazine editor, but that wasn't why I wanted to meet him.
That's not really the point.
But I want to learn something from you is a really legitimate reason to contact somebody above you in your field.
Right.
Just make sure that you're being as generous as you can with them. Take them to lunch. Buy them some drinks. Be respectful of their time. Have good questions to ask, because you don't want to get that kind of valuable access and then waste it by looking like a douche.
Right.
Yeah, you know. But since then, Chris and I are lifelong friends. He now has a book out. Hopefully, if I ever get a book out, he will be a person who I can get an introduction to his agent. I will be able to get an introduction from him to other authors. I'm planning his book party in September the 6th. If you would like an invitation to the release party of Those Across the River, you can email me at Allison, Allison, at angelsintheair.com. And I'm planning this party and donating my services to do it because I want to do it. I want to be a part of that success, and I want to meet those people. So I'm going to meet publishers and agents and other authors, and I'm doing it by donating my time and my labor to make this party.
Right. Right, and Chris is one of our writer study buddies too.
Yes,
that
yes,
we do
is.
kind of like we have this study hall theme of whenever Allison's in town or I'm in the same place she is, we'll get together and she'll work on her writing stuff. I'll work on my writing stuff, but we're both writing and we get actually a lot of stuff done. And Chris has sat in a couple of those times.
Yeah,
we were able
and I
to
do
help,
that with Chris as well too.
And we've helped him. We've helped him read through his book a little bit.
Yeah,
So
we were there because he had to change the whole thing from first person to third person.
Oh,
no, from third person to first person.
Yeah.
Which is another thing back to Charles's thing about going through that many no's, because, you know, it took him 10 years to write this book, and then it took 3 years between the agent saying, yes, I will represent your book, and the publisher going, yes, we will publish this book. And in that, he revised the book 3 more times.
Wow.
Even though he'd already spent 10 years on it.
Right.
Yeah. which I think is amazing.
So a big thing about branding your passion is the connections that you're going to make, the people that you're gonna help along the way, and they're gonna help you. And something from the book that I was talking about said it takes about 3 years before you may even see something come back. And it's almost an energetic thing. And I'm going to get a little woo-woo here because it talks about the people that you're helping may not be the people helping you.
Yes, you're donating to the karmic pool.
But they will be connected to someone, and somehow it'll come back to you, and it'll be about 3 years, and suddenly you're like, I'm so glad. And if you have a whole life of where you're helping people out, helping them move along, for one thing, you're feeling good about yourself. For another thing, you're helping a lot of people, and you're putting a lot of cash into the bank of karma, as you were saying.
Exactly.
And either they're going to help you out, somebody else is going to help you out, or
they're going to sing your praises to the right people.
And you're just going to be a stand-up guy or gal.
Yeah, because it builds reputation.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things, too, where, Charles and you both built a reputation as the funniest guy in the room. And part of it is you consciously doing that. Part of it is you tapping into what you think is going to love you and make you complete as a person and make you feel good as a person. But it's good for people to think about, what do you want to be known as? What do you want your reputation to be? There was a wonderful actress on the Renaissance Festival circuit named Baj Berinsky, who was known and beloved by many people. God rest her soul. She is one of the most well-loved people I have ever met. And she said a beautiful thing. She said if she had a totem animal, it would be a skunk, because a skunk's power is in reputation.
And we got Detached Lotus here on the line.
Hello, Detached Lotus.
Oh, wait, mute everything, sorry. I just want to let you guys know that everyone is lost. We all got kicked for a good 5 minutes back there. We have no idea what you guys are talking about. We missed that whole story.
We actually kept going.
So just an FYI, we're lost.
Thank you. We actually kept going because we are still recording. So when the audio is available, you'll be able to play catch up.
But that's a great segue.
Thank you. So Charles.
Yes.
Branding the passion. We find out, hey, look, this is my dream. I'm moving forward towards this. This is the thing that I want to do. Why is it important, first of all, to brand your passion? Or Allison, why is it important to brand your passion? Why do you want to make it something that, you're going to give to the world? If it's something that may be very personal to you, why would you want to, and how would you go about sharing that with the world?
I'm gonna let Charles weigh in on that first.
Boom, baby.
All right. Well, it comes down to what do you love, and why do you love it? And what I found when I approached you, Mr. Mon, was it wasn't about my passion and getting me out there. It was about, well, I love talking and I love doing podcasts, but it is not a field that you can just get discovered. It's not the field where you just work for 10 years and you're an overnight sensation. It's something you just slowly, you just do it because you love it. It's really a hobby that maybe can be great one day. And so I approached you going, well, you should get out there more. So let me do what I know. Because I do. I love doing the editing. I love doing the production. I love being the executive producer of it all, and not just talking and putting the spotlight on me. And that's another one of my talents. Is and I think this relates to people in everyday life. Is not just what can I do to get people to look at me. Is what do I love, and if I love it, then I become the expert on it.
Right.
And not to be the expert, but because I start sharing my knowledge. Somebody else goes, "Hey, check her out, Ronnie rocks." She's usually on the show. We were talking with her this week, and she just told a story very quickly of how she found somebody at this farmer's market in Mexico that she loved what they did, but they really didn't have any idea of how to really sell because they thought it was just bringing produce and we're done.
Right.
And she loved their food. It was really weird. Nobody knew what to do with it. That's why she loved it. And she quickly, over a day, her and her husband just hung out with them at the booth in the farmer's market. And by the end of the day, it's like the most traveled booth, and it just changed the world. Then, the next weekend, people start coming up to her going, are you coaches? Well, how much to come coach us?
Right.
How much to come to? And all she did was she found something she liked, saw that as being ignored because the person just didn't know what they had.
Yeah.
For no reason to help herself, she stepped in, and now all of a sudden she's the expert, and people are asking her to coach.
Yeah.
And that's how I approached you. I love doing this. Steve wouldn't be podcasting if I didn't do his website and publish it. Hugh wouldn't be podcasting if I didn't do his website and publish it. Jim would not be podcasting if we did not edit his show and publish it. But all these are great content creators that just didn't understand what I understood. So I said, you're awesome. Let me get you out there. And by getting them out there, it brings more exposure to me and what I do. And tapping you was not, oh, can we ride your coattails? It was, you do some cool stuff. I like what you do.
Right.
Let me get you out there, because you wouldn't podcast if I didn't publish and edit and all that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to do
You don't
it.
have
Ricky
the time,
thrives
you don't
on
know.
poking.
What?
He more than thrives on poking. You've got to poke him with a stick,
Poke,
and then he
yeah,
gets
poke the morning, poke the morning. So I think branding, it creates
Yeah.
it creates two things. It creates for the world. It creates expertise, and it creates a form of celebrity almost. So
Yeah.
when people are looking at you, whether it's on the internet or whatever, well, you seem to know about what you're talking about. And if you have a passion about something, you're gonna become the expert in that. Because
Yes.
you're going to learn more about it. You're going to immerse yourself in it, because it's something you want to read about. It's something you want to learn about. And we teach what we most want to learn. So you're going to become the expert in that field. And if you get out there enough and you brand yourself, suddenly there's a little bit of celebrity. Hey, I've seen you when you talk about this. So, and you've helped me when you talk about this. So I want to get to know you. And if you have something to offer, maybe I want to tap into that as well. So I think that's where branding helps with you when you want to share your passion with the world. Now,
And I think that's a really key point, when you want to share.
Right.
Because there's no point in branding your passion if it's a personal thing. You may want to work with a coach to decide how much time you want to put into it, or what a good avenue for you to pursue is. But if you're interested in sharing it with the world, then yes, think about branding it. And the reason to brand it, which was kind of, you were asking, why should you do that with something this personal, is if it ties into your mission. What is your mission? Why are you here? Because then you can decide, how should I brand this passion? And then the two big questions: do I want to make money at it? And do I need to make money at it?
right.
Yeah.
And how do I share it with the world?
Yeah.
With the world.
That, a lot of people listening though might go, well, you guys are all professional entertainers to one level or another. This doesn't apply to me. But I think Gary Vaynerchuk put it best: is you brand who you are for your work.
Yes.
And you know how many people, they do that stupid credit lookup thing, which kills me for work. But they also check LinkedIn. They also check your Facebook page if it's open. They check your Twitter account. When you go for an interview, I know somebody who didn't really understand social media all that much. They told a story. I don't know them, but I've heard the story told from their mouths that she, actually, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She was going for a job to work for a local theater, like a production theater where they do stage shows.
Right.
And I don't remember what the job was, but before she did the interview, she got on, made a special account with the theater name in it for Twitter, and started hitting up people and started really working the social media for the week before her interview to say, hey, go and follow them here, or go do this there. And so when she went to the interview, she goes, this is what I did before I came in. They go, that was you? You got the job. Because, I mean, immediately got them attention, not just little bits, but like 500,000 people were now following them because they didn't know social media, but they had started their site.
Yeah.
And all she was getting out there doing something that she liked.
And I think you make a really good point that you don't have to be in entertainment for it to be worthwhile. I mean, I think about my parents. My mother is a real estate agent. And when I came home a couple of weeks ago, my mother, who is, God bless her, 68, is up a 24-foot ladder chainsawing an oak tree. Because until the tree is trimmed, the house is not going to sell. And that is my mother's brand. She is the real estate agent who will do whatever it takes to sell your house.
So if you're in Florida and you want to sell your house, her
Glennis
email
Williams,
is-
baby, Glennis Williams. And then my dad was a pawnbroker for many years, and it's like pawnbroking, not the world's greatest profession. They deal with a lot of lowlifes. They have a lot of lowlifes. When I was 14 or 15, one of my first jobs was working in my dad's store. And my dad, on the first day I was there, showed me where they kept the gun in the safe. And he said, if anybody comes in here to rob the store, you give them whatever they want. Ring trays, cash out of the safe, just hand it over. Then when they turn to run out, you shoot them in the back. And you shoot to kill so that there's only one person left to tell what happened.
There you go.
But the message I got was, give them the stuff. It's not worth your life to hang on to the stuff. So my dad is...
But then take the shot.
Exactly. So my dad has a million stories like that. He's the funny pawnbroker.
Right.
He's the guy that it's okay that he just took $15 worth of your money when you borrowed $5 because people liked being around him.
Right.
He's a really charming person.
Yeah, he had that expertise and he provided an entertainment value.
Exactly. Kind of
You
makes
know.
me feel bad about sticking him in a nursing home.
Oh.
Only
No, I'm
kinda.
just kidding. I
So
feel
if you
really
want to see
bad.
Allison's dad, go to...
But for your everyday viewer, your everyday fan, the person who likes the vlogs, who follows you on the Facebook, how does this apply to them? How do you discover your passion?
2 words: side hustle.
Okay. I think we have just entered into a new realm. Tell us about side hustle.
Okay, your side hustle is
just so you know, I have not heard this term before, so it's not something we plan.
It's gaining new currency. Actually, there's a guy named Ramit Sethi who does a blog called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And Ramit's point is that you can take as little as 5 hours a week, time that you would normally spend watching TV, and you can make yourself an extra $1,000 a week if you put together a side hustle. Now, a side hustle is anything you do that makes you a little money on the side that's not your main job. So, for example, my partner Zay, fabulous aerialist, brilliant comedian, wonderful acrobat and fire eater. On the side, she's Zay the Happy Hatter on Etsy, and you can buy her crocheted bikini that looks like cupcakes and her crocheted bikini that looks like watermelon slices. I mean, you're getting the picture now, right?
Yes.
And she does hats and scarves and halter tops and, summer stuff in the summer, winter stuff in the winter. So that's her side hustle. And what makes it work for her is we spend a lot of time on airplanes.
Right.
Well, in the 2.5 hours between Tampa and Minneapolis, Zay can make a hat and make $100. So it's time that you're not taking away from your main job that may eventually start taking away from your main job, and then you have to decide whether to take your side hustle full time. But a side hustle is a great way to try out your passion and see if you really like it. And see if you do like it, do you like it more when it's just a hobby and you don't have to do things at certain times? Or do you like it more when you're making some money and you feel good because you're getting to do something you love instead of showing up to your cubicle every day for the automatons who don't appreciate you?
Right. So that's side hustle. So
yeah, that's your side hustle.
You're kind of, in a way, you're reinventing yourself laterally. You're
Yeah,
doing a lateral
yeah.
move. For me, Mordant World is a lateral move from Tortuga Twins. It's also it's a form of education. It's a form of entertainment, but it's a lateral move. So
Exactly.
I don't know if I want to call it my side hustle.
Well, and in your way, it's not necessarily, because it's become a whole second career for you.
Yes.
Your side hustle would be if you were life coaching, 4 hours a week and picking up a little extra cash to, spend on the ladies.
One day. On the ladies. Thanks. One day. Are we still recording?
And by
Yes.
ladies, I mean blow-up dolls.
Thank you, Allison Williams.
Whee! That's why you're a comedian and I'm a trapeze artist.
Woo!
Because you're funny and I'm just mean.
So let's talk about
Why
really.
you gotta be so mean?
Let's
Thank you, Taylor Swift, for putting my feelings into song.
let's talk about you have a number of passions. You have a
I
number
do.
of quote
I
unquote
do.
side hustles.
And it
that
all
you
ties
do.
back to my main mission. Like, I have tentacles, but they're all the tentacles on a starfish, and the heart of the starfish is my main mission.
Right. You have Aerial Angels, which is the aerialist thing.
Yep, which is a trapeze, acrobatics, fire-eating comedy troupe. We perform for corporate events, parties, festivals, and we street perform.
Right.
I have...
Go ahead.
In association with Aerial Angels, I have a program called Starfish Circus, where we go into a school, we cast 80 kids, grades K through 12, and we put up a circus show in 2 weeks, which the kids then do for their friends and family. And you would be amazed at what they can learn in 2 weeks.
Right.
I'm also a writer in 2 different genres. I'm a playwright. I specialize in plays for the high school market. My plays are carried through Theater Folk, and I have been fortunate enough that I've had plays make the top 10 list of most performed American plays in the past couple of years, I think 2006 and 2008.
Right. Now, before you
Yep.
go on, I want to say my most favorite quote that I've heard when you ask them, well, you're trying to figure out what kind of play to write, what kind of plays sell, and they said.
All of my plays happen in 30 minutes or less because a competition slot is 40 minutes and they have to get on and off the stage. There is no cussing. There is no open sexuality. There are characters of an age appropriate to be played by high school actors, and they are not lame.
Right.
And finding plays that fit the first 4 criteria and also are not lame is the really hard part. And if you can write stuff like that, you can sell it,
Yeah, but
because
that's not
high
the
schools
quote,
do a lot of plays.
That's not the quote you told me. When
Oh,
you
what did I
asked them
tell you?
what kind of plays sell, and you're, I don't know.
Oh, I said to my publisher, I was thinking about writing another play. As it turned out, I ended up writing a Commedia dell'arte piece. But I said, what? I said, okay, Craig Lindsay at Theater Folk, my publishers, who I love, who I drive to distraction with my lateness and my missing of deadlines. I said, okay, I'm getting ready to write another play. What sells? And they said, plays by Allison Williams sell.
Right.
And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So that is, and
That's
you,
side hustle number 3, and then I also write nonfiction. I write travel essays, and I've been in a couple of literary magazines.
right, but that's
So-
not the only thing. You also do stand-up 8.
Oh, that's right. That's like a peripheral thing. Yeah.
This is a segue.
Oh, that's a beautiful segue. Yeah. So my fifth thing then, I guess, is I do a large scale indoor touring circus show called Stand Up 8. And I would say if you only visit one link from today's podcast, one thing that I have shilled, one product that I have greased up to get ready to slide to you, go to www.standup8show.com. And you can use the number 8 or you can spell it out. We own them both. But standup8show.com. There's a 2.5-minute video clip there where you can really get a sense of what the heck it is I do. Because that show is the culmination of everything I have ever done in my life. I directed it. I wrote it based on material produced by the entertainers in the show. I cast the entertainers in the show. I worked hand in hand with the costume designer. I worked with the set people. I decided what acts would be in the show. And I had the contacts and the connections to get people to be in this show. And we won it all on reality television.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about that story with
Dragon's
Den?
Yeah, Dragon's Den. In America, it's called Shark Tank.
Right.
In Canada, it's called Dragon's Den. It's also Dragon's Den in England, and I think it's Tiger Den in Japan. And it's a show where entrepreneurs stand in front of a panel of multimillionaire investors, and you pitch your business idea. And you get grilled, and you get Simon Cowelled, and they yell at you. And sometimes they take footage of you weeping while the meanest dragon shouts tears and money don't mix, and they use it to advertise the network all year long.
That didn't happen to somebody we know, did it?
Heck no! My family used to call me up and say, "We just saw you crying on TV again today." You know. So I put all this together on reality TV, pitched the idea. We did get an investor who agreed to fund us to the tune of $250,000.
So you got the buy.
Yeah, we got the buy. And $250,000 sounds like a lot of money until you start buying box trucks and Olympic-sized trampolines. You know, so I'll put that in there for perspective. But I really felt like this was the show that I have finally gotten to the point by following my passion, by branding my passion in a bunch of different ways, and by going, you know what? I really want to make a large-scale indoor touring show. And now I know how to direct. I know how to write. I have the contacts to pull these people together.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend to somebody who's just starting off, or is at least a little ways, you know, whether they're in the entertainment business or there's some other passion that they have, you know, crocheting for Etsy or worm farming, as Gary Vaynerchuk, who wrote the book Crush It, by the way. I don't think we mentioned that at all. So you want to look at that book, crushitbook.com, or you can pick it up on Audible. It's a wonderful book. I'm going to pimp him out just for a second.
You go right ahead. You pimp away, buddy.
It's a wonderful book that he will talk about taking your brand, and he'll show you how to use Facebook, Twitter, Stickcam, any of the other social media things, and how you might like to do it. And what I like best about Gary's stuff is he's like, look, follow your DNA. If you don't like to write, don't do a blog. If you're uncomfortable in front of camera, don't do video stuff. Find what best suits you so that you're going to want to do it. And because you're chasing and catching your dreams, because you're branding your passion, you're going to want to do it anyways. So let's say nobody picks you up, you don't make any money off this thing, but at least you're sharing your passion, so you're having a great time. You're not just doing the 9-to-5 grind. You're really enjoying your life. If you're lucky and you put in a lot of hard work, maybe some people will pick you up, and maybe this becomes your life. Who knows? So check out crushitbook.com. Now, back to you, Allison.
Well, and I would say that's really the important part. Make sure it's something that you love, because when you first start doing it, A, you're going to suck at marketing it, and B, you're not going to make any money, and C, it's going to take forever and grind your soul into tiny little dust.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know that sounds terrible, but you have to be willing to suck for probably 2 years before you start being good at it. And by good, I mean competent and making money, because we are talking about stuff that people actually want to sell. They don't just want to do it for the good of their health, or they want to make an impact beyond making money. You know, the March of Dimes isn't out there to make money,
right,
but they are making an impact. So we're going to use money as a shorthand for impact and money.
Right.
You know, so it's got to be something that you love enough to do it, whether you get paid to do it or not,
right,
because you're going to be doing it for free, and you're going to be making a lot of mistakes, and you have to really love the underlying concept. So think about what you like to do. And that doesn't have to be what do you like to do that you're pretty sure makes money right off the bat, because you can figure out how to monetize what you like to do, even if it's not a traditional product. I have a friend who really likes kids, and he really likes improv. And as we all know, there's 9 million bajillion improv troupes out there, and most of them aren't making any money. So Rich Capitan up in Alaska, who I spent like 4 weeks working on this idea with, we were phone coaching a little bit, and we did an in-person meeting, and mostly it was about accountability. It was about him having somebody who he could bounce his ideas off of and have me say, oh, and did you think of this, and what about that, and then having me call him up and say, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? You know, did you call your sponsors? So Rich put together a thing that he called Kid Prov, although they're changing the name because somebody else already has the Kid Prov name. The improvisers were in their jammies. There was a milk and cereal bar. It was at 10 a.m. on a weekend day, and the slogan was Taking Back Saturday Morning. Oh. And they did great. He was so nervous. He was so like scared about doing it, but they did great. He doesn't know yet if they made any money, but he loved the experience of doing it. Now, I think it's a marketable product. I think that there's daycare centers out there. He got asked at the show, do you do preschools? Do you do birthday parties? There's summer camps all summer long in Alaska where the kids need some entertainment, and they might be the people to get brought in because improv is everywhere. But improv with no cuss words is not.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? And so he has found his passion, something that he loves to do, something that he would do for free, something that he would even probably pay people to do if that was the only way that he could get to do it. And he has found his particular niche because he also loves kids, and not all improvisers love kids. You know, so Zay crochets, Zay the Happy Hatter crochets. Lots of people crochet, but not everybody makes a bikini that looks like cupcakes. You know, so her specialty is stuff that doesn't look like your grandma made it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
And
right.
so, you know, Mordaunt, you are a motivational speaker. What makes you unique and different?
I think for me, it's my own personality, what I bring to the table. You know, it's not just I'm sitting here and I'm telling you what you need to do and what's a good thing for you. It's I'm bringing my own experience and bringing you along for the ride. You know, as we say in The Other Side of Live, it's not therapy, just a voice.
Yeah.
You know, it's my voice. These are my experiences. So I'm going to share them with you and bring into it what everything that I've learned. So it's kind of like a meeting place of the minds that we're able to share this with each other.
And you're willing to be a little vulnerable, and you're willing to be a little naked.
Vulnerable.
Well, because, I mean, when I think motivational speaker, I think guys with Teflon hair.
Thank you. The cheese ball. It's like, you're not a motivational speaker. You're not a life coach, because all those guys are cheese balls, goofballs, woo-woo wackadoos.
Have you not seen what I do on stage?
But you do it without the light coating of slime.
You don't do it with your hand out going, I'm coaching you.
I was slimy when I was younger.
And so that starts leading to the thing about the handout. You work on a sliding scale when you coach.
Right.
You know, and I think that's really good. That's part of your mission, that you reach people and they don't always have to pay you. You know, you want them to be committed, and sometimes money is what shows they are committed. But you are able to recognize that, well, yes, you need money if you're going to keep doing it, because otherwise it takes up too much of your time to do it for free.
Right.
It's not the only reason why you're doing it. So it's legitimately your passion and not just your product.
Right.
Well, something you mentioned earlier that you were going to get to and roll into next was how to decide which ones to put your time into and how to decide which ones are crap. But the thing that I always asked myself was, what will you do for free? It doesn't matter if people pay you. And this, for me, this is what I do with the producing and the, yes, we're having internet troubles tonight, but I can't control that part. But the video and everything else that we do, the production, I do all of that for free. And then it gets to a point that you say, I just can't. I mean, I've had to turn down paying gigs because they weren't production related. They were something that I didn't have a passion for. Like, I work a job. Now, I work a job that pays my bills. So if I'm going to take anything extra, it's going to have to be in this passion.
And that brings us to the equation of cash and stuff. And this is a concept from Hugh McLeod, who has a wonderful blog called Gaping Void. And Hugh's passion, Hugh's niche, Hugh's brand is cartoons on the back of business cards.
Right.
He does business card-sized cartoons. They're brilliant. They're really neat. My favorite one is the price of being a sheep is boredom. The price of being a wolf is loneliness. Choose one or the other with great care. So Hugh's brilliant. Ooh. And Hugh did this gorgeous post that was all about cash and stuff. You can read about it in his book, which is called Ignore Everybody. He says when you're first starting out, you can get paid in stuff, which is exposure, press, the opportunity to practice something new in front of your client
Trades.
or give your product, trades, exposure to working with people who you admire or in whose company you want to run, getting your name out there. As you get more experienced, as you get better at what you do, you can take some of your pay in stuff like hotel rooms and plane fare and being fed, but you need a lot more of your pay in cash. And a lot of the process for us as professionals and in branding our passion is to be able to go from an all stuff economy to a mostly cash economy.
Right.
Yeah.
And still get some of the stuff.
Yeah. And
It's always nice to get stuff.
Yeah, because the cash tells you that they bought you and the stuff tells you that they value you.
Yep. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And well, how does that play into the everyday life of somebody who's like, well, you guys do this is branding, and how do I apply that to getting a job or to just being happy in life?
What's your passion? First of all, I liked what you were saying about it's something that you would do for free. One of the other things that I would do is film acting. It's something I would do. I know I would do it for free. I would rather get paid at it, but it's something that I would put my time into. I had to make a choice recently, and I think I talked about this on some other podcast, where I've learned some stuff about whip cracking. But I knew that the time that I spent on learning more about whip cracking was time I could be spent on doing my Mordant World stuff. So it wasn't one of my passions. It fell by the wayside. I chose not to learn anymore. In fact, I did not buy a new whip in Arizona. It was a choice. I will not learn this. And that was hard for me to do. So you find out what your passion is, and then you move forward with that. And
then you put aside the stuff that might just be a project instead of part of your passion.
Or distraction.
Yeah, because a project ranks up there with cleaning out the garage. It's nice to do. You'll feel good about having done it, but it's a project because it doesn't advance your mission.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think a lot of it is identify what your mission is. And that is the thing that can help you the most in terms of if you're not self-employed. Because a lot of the stuff we're talking about applies to self-employed people. But I think you can take it into the corporate world as well. Because if your passion is, say, interacting with children, you maybe don't want to pursue that career in accounting, no matter how easily math
Chef
comes
Jack's.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell Chef Jack's story.
Chef Jack's basically, she worked people who do the research for media buys. The what's that called?
Media buy research.
Demographics?
Demographics. Thank you. Give it to the woman.
I do words.
And that's what she did. She's making a lot of money. I don't know if she wants me
More than $1.
Yeah, she's making more than I make now.
She was
and I do
making the
make
big
good
buck.
money.
It was given to her in the form of a giant novelty dollar.
And she hated it. She was miserable, and she constantly cooked, and people start saying, "Well, will you work my wedding for me? And will you do this for me?" And finally,
So it started as a side hustle,
exactly,
and then it became her main job.
and she left a very lucrative career in a corporate office to chase being broke for a while, and now she
Yeah.
pays her bills with it. I mean, she's not
And
rich by any
that
means, but
said, if she had decided, I don't love working for myself, but I love cooking, she could also have joined a catering company and
Right.
let somebody else process the paperwork while she cooked nice things. If she wanted to work
Exactly.
really long hours, she could have joined a fancy restaurant. If she wanted to work really short hours, she could have joined a tea room. There's a lot. Once you know what your passion is, there's a lot of markets to sell your passion
And
in.
degrees of everything as you do it.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe she only likes cooking delicate food. She could join a hospital and become part of the diet team. Once you know what that passion is, then decide how much risk you want to take and how many hours you want to put in.
And how you can turn that side hustle into your main hustle.
Exactly. And then everybody's doing the hustle.
You're not on camera.
I saw him when he danced like that the first time around.
Oh, yeah. And when that song first came out.
Good times.
In the 70s.
okay,
Good
Chicky says
times.
we should try interacting with the viewers a bit more, but they're not really asking questions.
Does
They're not
anybody have
putting
any
anything else.
questions?
Yeah, nobody's calling in, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Here's-
everybody's commenting on what we're talking
Is
about.
Skype-
Are there
Skype
any
is
good
working.
comments?
Most people are talking about, right now, the last thing was about asking about Ricky's book, if he's a self-publisher, and they're catching up. But, we will. We'll and be more than happy to interact with the chat room when they ask questions.
Well-
you guys are catching each other up and talking, and, they love the comment about the wolf means being lonely.
Hugh McLeod.
Once again, in
So?
case you don't know and don't see that number, the number is 813-413-7133. Call in, ask your questions, and we will answer them or make something up.
So, okay, now this is a question here. Red Roses Dead. I want to know about Ricky's publishing company.
My publishing company. I have a publishing company called Quantum Manifestations publishing, which I began to be able to produce my book. The book is now owned by Serena Stone's company, Empowerment Through Knowledge. So I do have a publishing company, but I'm not using it at this time. Right now, I'm more concentrated on Modern World Media, which is doing all the stuff that you see. You can see me doing the live show here, the video blogs, which are now going to be turning into a podcast in and of themselves, the stuff on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So I've been concentrating more on Modern World Media than I have on Quantum Manifestations Publishing. So that's what's happening with that. However, speaking of my book...
Because being a publisher is not necessarily your passion.
It's not my passion.
You don't want to be responsible for 100 cartons of books.
No, it was a means to the end to get the book
Exactly.
out, and now somebody else is handling that, so I don't have to worry about that. I just have to provide content, which is what I do when I have Big C able to produce my shows. I just really have to provide content, which is more of what I'm all about.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the nuts and bolts of putting all this together and editing and blah, 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 not my thing.
So what's your passion?
My passion is blah.
Connecting with people, maybe?
Connecting with people. No, actually, helping people to chasing and catching their dreams.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm actually doing myself. I'm teaching what I want to learn. I myself am chasing and catching my dreams. I'm reinventing myself and finding a way to help people help themselves. I'm really enjoying this part of my life. And when people come back to me and say, hey, look, what you've said to me or what you've said in your vlogs or whatever really touched me and helped me move past this thing, then that's great. That makes me feel good. Also, as I'm learning this stuff that I can share with you, it also helps me break beyond my barriers, move beyond my hurdles and all of my roadblocks as well. So bigger, better, better, more, baby. I'm just moving up and sharing what I learned along the way. And that's really my passion right now. And speaking of my book, this Friday, we're going to have a Modern World meetup in Atlanta, actually Roswell, Georgia, at the Phoenix and Dragon bookstore.
Am I there too?
If you are still here and you want to be, you can be there as well.
I will also be there.
So we will also have Allison Williams. We will have our good friend Sharon Watson. I'm not sure if Chicky 3737 will show up or not, but she might, Princess. So if you want to stop by and enjoy a Modern World meetup, that will be happening from, it's either 7 to 8:30 or 7:30 to 8. I can't remember which.
People should come at 7 so that they can comfortably browse and get a drink order and enjoy themselves, and then we'll probably start chatting around 7:30.
Something like that. Yeah, the book will be available there as well. And it is an official Modern World meetup. The second annual Modern World meetup here in the Atlanta area. The first one was in Books A Million with just like 3 or 4 of us.
Well, because you did it like at the last minute. You like, this would be a great idea, and people actually showed up.
Yeah, people actually showed up. I think Margaret Gallo showed up and a few others. So there you go.
Like talking about the passions. When people seem to think that they have to have something to sell, they have to have something to push out, and I think we just fell into all of our stuff naturally. I mean, I did this stick at work in a corporate office. I mean, maybe not so far as I go on my live show, but I would just, like you said, you always have to be the center of attention. I was that guy everywhere, and I always made it clear the first year of my show, like, this isn't an act. You met me in my office, you would get the same thing, maybe tone down a little bit.
I dictated stories to my mother before I could write. And when I was a kid, I always put on the neighborhood talent show.
Right.
And that's it too. Yes, I was always in the talent show, but I was directing the talent show.
And now you're doing it for money.
Because that's something that I've discovered just in the past 2 weeks, which is that I want to make the transition to being an event planner and not just a performer. And I would say, too, something to think about as well is think about who your support team is. And that can be everybody from your friends and connections, your podcast guy, the beloved friend who will babysit your child while you take that precious hour to yourself to work on your project.
Or your husband or wife that will do that for you. And
or that tolerates you being absent or focused on something.
Right.
The girl at the coffee shop who remembers your name and makes you feel welcome when you come in to write every day.
Yes.
That's all part of your support staff. Count up your resources and don't be afraid to ask them for stuff. Know that your generosity, the more you give into the karmic pool, you will either give back directly to them or you'll give to other people.
And say thank you.
Oh, God, yes.
Say thank you. I'm getting even trained by my own staff to not just say thank you, can you do this for me, but also to become involved in their life. How are you doing? Sometimes I get caught up in all my modern worldness, and Chicky 3737 is like, you should really ask me how I'm doing. I'm like, oh my, you're right. I should. So, you know, it's the whole teaching, training, whatever, sharing thing is a give and take. And I wanted to hit on that. You said it goes beyond trying to sell your stuff. If you want to brand your passion, the real reason is not to sell your stuff, sell your passion, but if you want to share it, that's why you brand it.
Because the brand is the difference between people trusting what you have to offer and not trusting what you have to offer.
Right.
You know, so people are willing to share their entertainment services with the world through me because they know I'm going to pay them when I say I will. They know that the gig's going to turn out like I said it would, and they know it's going to be handled professionally. You know, if I was just, you know, doing this casually and not committed to having it be a really good experience for everyone involved, my side hustle or even my main hustle would crash and burn because nobody would want to work with me.
Right.
Yeah.
Consistency. Taking pride in what you do, whether you get paid for it or not, is key in this world, man.
And that's why I love working for myself, because I'm never going to work any less hard. So I might as well work for me and get all the credit.
I think that's a common theme for all of us that maybe some people don't relate to. Is I think all of us would say that is like, I work for a boss right now because that's what pays the bills. But I figured out the only person I'd be happy working for is me.
Yep.
Right.
You know, you're the same way, and obviously
you're not working any less. It's not like, look, I get to kick back and play the Xbox and do that. No,
oh my God! If you're going to be self-employed, be prepared to work 80 to 120 hours a week when you first start.
And that's why you make sure you're doing something you love, because you're going to be doing it a lot. You're going to be doing beyond the point where you love it to the point where, wow, this is a job again.
Yeah.
But at least it's something I love or used to love. Now it's work.
Yep.
And then when you get really good at it and you train yourself, just like learning how to ride a bike, oh, it's easy now. Then you can really enjoy it again.
Yeah.
And again, find people, and this goes for, I mean, anything you do around the house, time for yourself. Find people who love to help you.
Yeah.
And put the burden off. I couldn't do what I do now if I didn't have people helping me, and they do it for free too. You know, put it off. Well, the kid, like you said, somebody to watch your baby, even if it's not even if you just need an hour to yourself, find somebody who loves taking your kid. And
everybody
let them take
needs
your
a
kid.
wife.
Or
I need
or
a
a personal assistant. Everybody needs a
well,
personal
and that's
assistant.
it too. I mean, I got to the point where I have hired a number of personal assistants over the years, some of whom just did stuff for me around the house, some of whom ran errands, and one of whom eventually became the business manager for my company. And now she mostly works for the company and hardly works for me at all. She does our taxes, she writes contracts, you know, she sends out booking packages. But I just hired somebody else to clean my house because that takes hours that I would rather spend doing something else. And it is surprisingly inexpensive to get a personal assistant, and I would recommend it to just about anybody.
And when you're not paying money, invest in their lives. Like you said, paying with stuff. When you, like, we have a great web guy, David, he's in the room tonight, DCP 3450, amazing web genius. And the best thing I've been able to do for him is not only get him some money through outside sources, but to say, dude, your ideas are genius.
Yeah.
We want to take what you do and run with it.
Yeah.
And he's full on invested in what we do.
Yeah.
And right now he's building Morning World, and that'll be launched in the next couple of weeks. We're having to push it back. We're working on it. It's Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
And this is Rome. I'm telling you, he built freaking Rome in a website. It's awesome.
That's amazing.
So,
yeah.
you know.
And I just want to briefly touch on the personal assistant thing one more time, because it's something that has helped me free up my time to be a business person and to work on my stuff more than anything else. And I've gotten most of my personal assistants by putting a notice on the local college bulletin board. And as long as you are paying more than minimum wage, there are people who are delighted to run your errands, do your groceries, pick up your dry cleaning, clean your house, you know, do your research, whatever you need them to do. And for me, because I can average my time at $20, $25 an hour when I'm working as an entertainer or a booker, it's worth it to me to spend $10 an hour to have someone clean my house.
Right.
Because every hour I spend cleaning my house, I'm losing $15.
There you go.
Because I'm losing the money that I would make over and above what I would pay the kid.
Right.
You know, so it's I highly recommend it. It might take you a couple of tries to find somebody who gets you and who's good, but it's totally worth it.
And I think the hard part for me was figuring out, well, what could I use a personal assistant as? I mean, I don't know what to give them. What am I going to, you know? And then I'm looking at the paperwork and everything. And I'm like, that could be something somebody else could do so I can create, so I can
add up my receipts, pick up my dry cleaning. And when they do my groceries, I save money because they don't buy stuff that's not on the list. When I go to the groceries, when I go do groceries, I probably spend 20
hungry. I'm
bucks.
going to get Allison one of these.
Yeah. I probably spend 20 bucks on impulse buys when I go to the grocery store.
Nice.
It's totally worth it.
My wife would do even better. She would not only take your list, she'd take your list and find all the coupons and the deals she could find and save you even more. Like, she's obsessed. And that's her passion.
Yeah.
Her passion is saving. She'll walk up to people in the store and like, here's a coupon for that in your buggy right there.
Yep. I'm working on a textbook about Commedia dell'arte theater. And one of the things I did was I hired a college student who had a serious interest in improvisation and history of theater. And I said, okay, I need you to take these 6 books and I need an original essay that uses these key concepts but doesn't directly quote any of these people and doesn't plagiarize. Then I'll repolish it in my words.
Right.
Yeah.
What are you paying him?
I think I paid him $12 an hour.
That's awesome.
So, and then credit on the book.
Right,
He'll
that's
get an
awesome.
assistant credit on the book,
Good.
which is good for him because he's at a stage where stuff means as much to him as cash, and that'll help him get into graduate school.
Yeah.
As will the lovely reference I will write him.
Yeah, I've thought about doing that too, contacting tech schools, see if they have a radio broadcaster program.
Yeah.
Really, I need an engineer. I need somebody to do what I'm doing for Ricky right now without being on the microphone that can make sure everything's running right.
Yeah,
I
that'd
thought
be
about
a
hitting the
great
tech schools.
internship position.
Right.
That'd be a
Where would they do
fabulous
it from? Would they
internship
do it from
They'd
position.
have to come here, yeah. They'd have to come here and sit in the desk, and I'd rearrange. Or no, like we talked about, we'd rearrange the soundboard, and they can get to it.
Yeah, and it would be great for them because then they would get experience and resume credits working on a real show.
So I've definitely been rolling that one over for a while.
Yeah.
We probably should
Wrap it. Let's talk about this coming weekend on Saturday. We are having the Bear Crawling Nation field trip to the Georgia Renaissance Festival. So if you are listening to the sound of my voice and you like any of the shows that go through the Bear Crawling Nation, I'm going to be there. Charles is going to be there. We're going to have Hugh from the Road Show. We're going to have Steve from Nil Desperandum.
No, Steve does From the Edge.
From the
and
Edge.
Vestige, the zombie drama.
And
that's still
Vestige,
under
the zombie
development.
drama. So, and hopefully quite a
V
few
will
of
be
our-
here. V whose show we launched this summer, Hurts When I V.
It Hurts When I V.
She'll be here.
Is it available now? Can people
No,
listen to it?
we still haven't put it out yet. We're still in development.
It's still in development. So
we're-
she'll be there and quite a few of our listeners. So that will be this Saturday.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
This Saturday on the May 27th?
I believe that would be the
Or
27th.
May 28th.
28th, yeah.
May 20. That's right, because the 27th is my
Yes.
book signing Mordant World meetup.
And if you're interested in picking up on some of the links that we've been talking about through the program, I know that most of you are followers of Mordant on his blog and on Facebook. We're going to go ahead and post a list of all the
Yep.
people that we talked about and links to their website. And also a link where I brought you this present. Am I holding it in the right place?
No, we can't see it at all.
Well,
Everything's
because-
frozen.
Now you are, yes. You're good.
Yay!
Yay.
So this T-shirt says Circus Freak. It's an official Ariel Angels Starfish Circus T-shirt. And if anybody wants one, they can get one at my website, angelsintheair.com.
So you're a rock star, man. You get the cool stuff. That's
Woo!
awesome.
I got see, this is stuff.
Stuff is cool.
Stuff.
That's how I bought my way onto this show.
That's right. Payola.
That's a great standard to set. Buy your way onto the show.
Buy your way
Free
onto the
stuff.
show. Bring me a T-shirt.
Ooh. Hey, that would be a great question for the Facebook tonight. What would you use to buy your way onto Mordant's show? You guys could have a guest spot for the
I
winner.
think we'll start with letting them buy their way onto the Bear Crawling Show.
One last question was at the festival this weekend, the field trip. Will you have your book available to be sold, and for how much?
I will have the book available. It's $15. And I will sign copies, happily sign copies.
And you should post that on your Facebook page later on tonight so people know.
All right. I will do that.
Fantastic. It's going to be a big old Facebook and night.
That's right. And hopefully by the end of this week, you're going to find This Other Side of Live and many others on bearclawingnation.com and soon to be launched, morningworld.com. And we did video tonight. So that will also be launched through bearclawingnation.com.
That's right. Allison, where can we find you? Where do you want them to find you?
Find me through angelsintheair.com. That's kind of the hub of all the things I do.
What about your new site? You want to talk about that or not?
It's not up and running yet, so I'm going to wait on that.
Never mind.
Yeah, just go with angelsintheair.com.
This is not the site you're looking for. Angelsintheair.com.
Yeah.
That's it. I
Better
think
than a trip to
that's
Tashi Station.
There you go. Are we good?
Thank you guys so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you again, Charles. Thank you all for listening to us. And this has been our Mordant Mon with The Other Side of Live. Ciao, dream catchers.
I want the world to see you be with me. Hey, soul sister, ain't that Mr. on the radio? stereo, the way you move ain't fair, you know. Hey, soul sisters, I